my god!
Kept you waiting, huh?
Yes, it's actually finally happening. My Madoka Magica Part 3 video. Wowzers! First of all, thank you everyone who's enjoyed my first 2 parts of the series. I love all of your comments and theories. You're all lovely. And if you haven't seen them yet, you totally can. There's links in the description and also in the iCard for anyone who actually uses that thing. So in my first 2 videos, I looked at all of the known, at the time, witches from the Madoka Magica anime and also from the app game Magia record. I used context clues and production notes to try to figure out what kind of people the witches used to be back when they were magical girls. However, as many people have commented and theorized about, what if some of the girls from Magia record actually were the witches we know from the game and the show? There's definitely some correlations between a few of them, so let's take a closer look at this, shall we? Let's theorize which magical girl from Magia record might have became these witches. Now before we can start looking at any witches for specifics, we need to start trimming the fat. There's a million characters in Magia record, and they keep adding more and more, so to help focus our attention a little bit, we need to exclude anyone with known witch forms. This includes all of our magical quintet, and also Charlotte, since Bebe is confirmed to be her magical girl. This also includes any girl in Magia record who has a known doppel. Thanks to our magical quintet doppels, we can see that their doppel forms are pretty similar to their witches that they end up becoming in the end. And while I was looking through all the girls with doppels, none of them seem to have an exact match for any of our various witches. So all girls with doppels are also out, leaving us with a measly 30-ish girls, 30-ish. They keep adding more characters, and like, by the time this video comes out, with my luck, there'll be another 9 girls who all be perfect matches for some of these witches. Okay, so we've narrowed it down to these girls, so let's start looking deeper into these characters to really start figuring out which one of these would be the best fit for our witches. And what better place to start than the first witch we ever saw? Gertrude. To recap attributes for Gertrude's magical girl, I've deduced we're looking for someone with a connection to flowers, roses especially. Butterflies are also a big element, shown in her kiss, her soul gem, and using butterfly wings to fly around. While in the video I couldn't come to a conclusion as to what her weapon might have been, many comments have theorized 2 different ideas. Either a whip, due to the vines she uses during her fight, or a giant pair of scissors, which we can see her familiars are using as well. I also theorized she was somewhat depressed or had low self-esteem due to her grotesque appearance. Looking at Gertrude's appearance, I thought Keiko was a shoo-in. Her hair is green, similar to Gertrude's, and hangs in front of her face in a way that reminds me of Gertrude's sloppy look. Unfortunately, Keiko has a doppel form, so never mind. Looking at our girls without doppels, I see only one who could really be a true fit for Gertrude, Konami Haruna. Konami's adoration for flowers is abundantly apparent. Her magical ability is even the power to make flowers grow. On top of that, Konami's weapon is even a giant pair of scissors. Top it all off with the large rose decoration in her hair, and she seems like an almost perfect match. The only thing is, the butterfly element seen in Gertrude is nowhere to be seen with Konami. And Konami doesn't fit that depressed nature I theorized for Gertrude either. However, none of the other magical girls has any connection to flowers like Konami does. Moving on, let's look at Candy. From what I figured out about Candy, she was probably very young and kind of a brat. Her weapon was likely a spear of sorts, as seen with her decapitated heads in the background. There's also a theme with ballerinas and teddy bears. Any girl with a primarily pink color palette and pigtails is a great start for looking for her magical girl. Ayame, Layla, Ria, and Rika all fit that idea. And Ashley's love for kawaii things could also fit the bill. Now that we've narrowed it down to these 5, let's start digging a little deeper. Starting with Rika, only her color palette seems to fit Candy. Her weapon is a compact mirror that shoots lasers, which really doesn't fit Candy's theme of spikes. And she's not really young or bratty enough to fit Candy's other attributes either. Ria is similar. She's actually much more mature than the other girls tend to be, and her weapon is a bow. Again, that's not a good fit for Candy. I thought Ashley's love for cute things and fashion seemed to be a good indicator for being Candy's girl. And her teddy bear weapon might help allude to Candy's stuffed animal themes in the backgrounds. However, Ashley isn't really young or bratty. Also, she recently got a doppel, so she's automatically out. Similarly, Layla has lots of the the same pros and cons Ashley does. Her hair is much more similar to bunny ears would be, and her accessories are all rather cute, just like the themes of Candy's Labyrinth. And her accents are a lighter blue, which can be seen in Candy's design as well. But the similarities seem to end there. Her revealing outfit gives the impression Layla is much more mature than someone Candy would have been, even being mature enough to live on her own with her best friends. She also has an overall theme of fire that's absent from Candy's design. However, I do think Ayame is a perfect fit for Candy. Her pigtails are a cute allusion to bunny ears, and we also see the bunny aesthetic continuing throughout her design, both in her design on the stocking and in her magical girl transformation sequence. She even has these little bows in her outfit, just like how Candy has. Her weapon, unfortunately, isn't a perfect fit for Candy's spears, but more importantly, Ayame fits Candy's personality. Ayame is the youngest of the Azalea girls and is treated like a little kid. And while she generally is shown to be sweet, especially towards her sisters, she's also shown to be hot-headed and a bit of a brat, obsessed with winning little competitions, especially against Felicia, the other youngest character in the cast. Unfortunately, there's one big issue. Ayame actually does have a doppel. When I was first writing the script, she didn't have one, but now she does. But this seems like a really terrible doppel for her, doesn't it? This doesn't make much sense. I guess Candy's just gonna have to stay as a question mark, as none of the other girls fit enough of Candy's themes. Dang. I was really jazzed about Ayame being like a perfect fit. Stupid motorcycle doppel. What does that even mean? Moving on, let's take a look at Candy's palette swap, Matsasaburo. Now, a lot of people had a lot of different theories about Matsasaburo, since I could find almost nothing to give us insight on her magical girl. That's because, oops, her magical girl has already been confirmed. Meet Kuro. Kuro is a character made for Magia Records' Valentine's Day event, a la carte Valentine. During the event, she becomes Matsasaburo and I'm sorry, Matsasaburo's page doesn't mention Kuro anywhere, so when I was doing my research for my video, I had no idea her magical girl had even been confirmed. In-game, Kuro doesn't really do anything. She doesn't even get much of a character or even a side story. We know her weapon is a magical sword, but that's about it. Apparently she's got a bigger role in the anime or something. I haven't watched it yet. I'm sorry guys, I haven't watched it yet. So while Candy couldn't get an exact answer, at least we do have a definitive one for her double. Next, let's check out Albertine. From what I was able to figure out, Albertine seems to have been probably extremely young for being a magical girl. She probably had a rough home life and was most likely very lonely. She has the ability to make her drawings come to life, which probably played into the wish she made. Now to start, we want to narrow our vision down to the youngest characters available. If Ayame wasn't already a perfect fit for Candy and had a doppel, I would say she would be a good candidate. Rika also might have worked. Her hair is rather similar looking, at least a little bit, but there's not really enough to make a good argument for her beyond that. Really, I think the best fit is Yuma. She does still have similar pigtails, albeit in the wrong color, and Yuma has a really strong theme of cats that's missing from Albertine's design. However, Yuma is the youngest known magical girl in the game so far. She also has an abusive mother and a neglectful father. Even if all the other attributes seem flimsy at best, this element of her character makes Albertine seem like a perfect match for her. Let's go from our youngest to our oldest, Roberta, the birdcage witch. Even though she's only in the show very briefly, I was able to figure out some of the core elements for her character. First, that she was probably much older than the typical magical girl, and she had a fondness of books and drinking. Also, based on the scantily clad, muscular birdman seen in her labyrinth, she probably had some issues when it came to romance. The birdcage aesthetic seems to come from a sense of feeling trapped in the life she's unhappy with, opting to replace the absence of real friends with dolls instead. Out of all the girls so far, I think Seika is the best fit. She's old enough to own her own place alongside Layla and Mito. I'm not gonna lie, this is a bit of a stretch. It's mostly based on the hypothetical of what would happen if the other two died before her, leading to her indulging in alcohol and dolls to fill the void they would leave behind. I'm really sorry, there's not much else to go on, but she's also the only one who I could manage to find even a little bit that could compare to Roberta. Next, let's check out Kittery. I figured out that Kittery has a theme of needles, and more importantly, she has a big connection to Kyubey, donning a Kyubey mask before revealing her full form during their fight. At the time, I theorized this meant she was supposed to be a sort of false prophet, doing her best to stop the witches, blindly unaware that Kyubey's wishes are what's making the witches in the first place. However, a lot of you lovely people commented that it could also be the opposite, that she knew fully well what Kyubey was doing and was actually empathizing with his cause. So let's keep both of these in mind while looking at our girls. A couple of girls popped up on my radar solely because of their more extreme fashion choices, but that's not enough. But really, the only answer that seems obvious to me is Kaneko. Kaneko's biggest gimmick for her character is her crazy fashions. Sewing is her life, but she tends to make bizarre outfits that usually involve non-fabric items, like mushrooms, for example, a lot of mushrooms. Hell, her magical ability is even being able to magically sew things together. This matches Kittery's odd sewing theming, and they even share a dark color palette. Kaneko's rapier also seems like an easy allusion to Kittery's needle arms. But what about the strong allusions to Kyubey? Well, Kaneko actually spends a lot of time befriending Kyubey before she even makes her wish. Kaneko might view Kyubey as a real friend, and arguably has the best relationship with him out of all the girls in-game. All this makes me 100% convinced that Kaneko is Kittery's magical girl, without a doubt. Let's take a look at Zenobia. I'm not gonna lie, I had a really hard time with her. Zenobia has a beach theme, which seems to have become overrun with infrastructure. I theorized that she probably made a wish about the environment's protection, and had a close relationship with or around the ocean. None of the magical girls fit this theme at all. I thought maybe it's Konami because her hair is similar, but beyond deciding she is obviously a better fit for Gertrude, her theme is more about flowers, not the ocean, and environmental protection isn't really addressed with her. Then I thought it was gonna be Mocha. I'm not gonna lie, it's just because she has that long orange hair. Nothing else about her character fits. But then, I started writing the script, and I checked the wiki to see if there was any new magical girls, and I found, lo and behold, introducing Chica. Okay, look, I get it. Visually, she doesn't really match, and her gimmick involves the forest rather than the ocean. Sure, but her wish that turned her into a magical girl was for her family to live peacefully, surrounded by a natural world. This is the only mention that I could find about using a wish that's even closely related towards saving the environment. It's paper thin at this point, but I'll take what I can get. Next, let's tackle Elsa Maria. There's strong religious imagery associated with Elsa Maria, making me theorize that was probably an important element with her magical girl too. Initially, I assumed it might be Joan of Arc, or Tart as she's known by. However, Tart has a doppel, and it's dissimilar enough that I don't think it'll fit for Elsa Maria. On top of that, Elsa Maria's tree theme seems to allude more towards the creation of Earth, with the Tree of Knowledge. However, they do both appear to be in the same pose of clasped hands in prayer. If you wanted to make an argument for her becoming Elsa Maria, I would totally get it. Sasara seems like she'd be a good fit. Her color palette is a perfect match after all. However, her theme is more about being a knight, and doesn't touch on religion. Really, I think the best fit is Masara. Again, this involves some headcanon, sorry, but hear me out. The idea with Elsa Maria is that she seems to be in prayer, but what if instead she was just in mourning? Masara is almost entirely emotionless, and thus has almost no friends. But the one girl who is her friend, Kokoro, means the world to her. What if something happened, and the despair of losing the one person who matters the most to her sent Masara off into becoming Elsa Maria? Masara also has a theme of mirrors, and there's this mirror-like element to Elsa Maria's labyrinth. And this might be a bit of a stretch, but Masara's magical ability is transparency. And when Elsa Maria is using the shadows with her and her familiars, she can get lost in all the shadows. Maybe as a take on the idea of not being seen, while also foregoing the exact invisibility element of the ability. Next, let's take a look at Durabar. Durabar has a theme of religion again, being classified as the Ikigami Witch, meaning to achieve a godlike status. However, she also has themes of impurity. She's constantly washing herself to try to bathe away the impurities. I took this to mean as she's done something she greatly regrets, presumably murder. She also has the ability to see into the future, and with all this information, I figured out who her girl would have been right away. Oriko. She has a look that's similar to church clothes, thinks incredibly highly of herself, is okay with the idea of murder, and has the ability to see into the future. But unfortunately, Oriko already has a doppelform, and it looks nothing like Durabar. At least with Tarte, you could try to make an allusion to Elsa Maria, but Oriko, there's just no way, damn it. Really, no other girl fits the bill as good as Oriko did, but let's try anyways. Akira's ability of identifying could get interpreted as future seeing, but she's lacking any of the religious motif Durabar has. Sasara and Yuna have religious themes, but are lacking the future sight element. The closest girl I could find was Himina. We don't have much to work with for her, at least not on the wiki, and she's missing those religious themes, at least with her outfit, but the thing that catches my eye is her magical ability. She can transfer a unique person's magical abilities between different magical girls for a limited time. I know it's a stretch, but what if that concept was the thing that made her feel impure? Maybe she ended up really hurting someone by swapping their powers. Hell, she could even use her ability to swap Oriko's future vision powers onto herself for a while. It's a stretch, I know, I'm sorry, but there really was nothing else I could work with here. Next is Payola. Okay, I really struggled with this one. It doesn't help Payola is more designed around a gimmick being a beach-themed boss for a side game that got added into Magia Record. She lives in a labyrinth made entirely of water, yet can't swim, which made me assume drowning was probably what set off her soul gem to hatch. And that's all we know about her. Water. Water gimmick stuff. Natsuki is the only girl I could find that even remotely compare to her. She's the water element in-game, and both her and Payola have designs around celebration, with the flag and her baton and everything. Sports is another thing that ties them together. Natsuki being huge into sports, and Payola being designed after several water sports. Let's take a look at HN Ellie. Ellie has themes of being famous to some degree. We even get to see what is presumably her as a magical girl inside her television. I assume she was probably a pop star, and she made a wish to box up a memory. Based on her abilities in combat, I'm assuming she had the power to teleport, or at least something similar. And angels are seen in both the design of her grief seed and her familiars. First, I thought Ayaka was a perfect fit. Her hair is almost exactly like Ellie's, and she's even a performer. However, her shtick is more comedy, not being an idol, and the teleporting and angel themes are nowhere to be found with Ayaka, who's also just too generally upbeat for Ellie anyways. No, I think Ria is actually the girl we're looking for. She has those pigtails, even though they're in the wrong color. However, the wish Ria made was to be naturally beautiful. Maybe her idea of natural beauty also meant blonde hair. Or Ellie's black pigtails might be a representation of the dark emotions inside of her. After all, that silhouette we see doesn't show us a specific hair color. While we're on visuals, Ria also has several wing-like designs in her outfit and in her bow, which could also help allude to those angel designs we see with Ellie. And to top it all off, she's a model. It's much more similar to the pop star angle I had originally theorized than Ayaka's comedian style. I don't know about you, but this feels like a perfect match for me. Let's bounce on over to Isabelle. There really isn't a lot to know about Isabelle. She was an artist who presumably plagiarized others' work. And that's about it. So really, art themes is the best we can work with for finding her magical girl. And Tamari is the only one with art as a theme who doesn't have a known doppelform yet. Her weapon is actually paintbrushes that she throws. And while her ability isn't related to art, it is about manipulating others, making others do whatever she writes them to do. With an ability like that, it would be awfully easy to make an artist put her name on their artwork. Huh? Let's look at Gisela next. Gisela seems to have been in a gang, specifically a motorcycle gang. It seems she's been a witch for a long time, since she was initially silver, but has since rusted over while looking at a coastal sunset. Her appearance also has a golem-esque look, making me theorize she wasn't the leader of the gang or anything, just a dedicated member who wished for more strength to serve her gang more. Akira has that strength part down, but she's specifically trained by her family's dojo. She's not going to be running around with gangs anytime soon. Shizuku has the bold soldier type personality we're looking for, but she's also too honest to be affiliated with gangs. Also, her ability is teleporting, and she wouldn't really have a need for a motorcycle if she could just teleport where she needs to go. Well, actually, Ayame's doppel is a motorcycle. No, that's dumb. That's dumb. She doesn't fit this theme at all. Why is it a motorcycle? But finally, I landed on Sakia. Oh, jeez. What are your eyes? Why are they so big? No other character in the whole game has eyes like this. What even? What? Well, on topic. Sakia is a runner, and that could end up translating into having a motorcycle someday. She even has several illusions, like getting burnt out or complete combustion, that is comparable to operating a motorcycle or other machinery. But more importantly, she has the most gangster personality of them all. She actually assaulted someone before a competition, and her wish was to have her assault forgiven so she could still compete. She may not be in a gang yet, but with her track record, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be out of the question for her to go down that path. Now, let's talk about Patricia. Patricia's labyrinth is on a rooftop, presumably where she might have even tried to commit suicide, as it's implied by her design that she might have been molested or worse. On top of that, there's a theme with her and spiders and spider webs, seen by her hanging on these clotheslines, being very spider-like, and the design in her grief seed. With these unfortunate events surrounding her design, it wasn't easy trying to find a character who could fit. I thought Masara's cold demeanor might fit with Patricia and what she might have gone through, but there wasn't enough to truly make any comparisons. Renka's skirt seemed to be most like Patricia's, but again, there's nothing else to work with. I finally landed on Shizuku. After all, her dicey romantic feelings for this older guy might have ended up leading to Patricia's hands design. However, Shizuku actually got a doppel recently, and thankfully this proves it's not Patricia. So I ended up having no solid answers for Patricia. This time though, I'm glad I couldn't find a good enough fitting magical girl for this switch. Next, let's take a look at Rebecca. She's clearly designed to look like a sheep, but also she has many eyes that never falls asleep. She seems to be deathly afraid of something, forcing herself to stay awake, and her labyrinth is littered with crosses, presumably for protection against evil spirits, but might also hint at a slightly religious mindset, as she has themes of sleeping beauty here and there, including wheels like the one that pricked her finger and put her to sleep, pushing the irony of being a sheep that stays awake the whole time. And I actually think Sasara is the best fit. She has themes of being a knight, but becoming the witch turns her into the damsel in distress. On top of that, her ability is to draw attacks towards herself. If the witch kept this sort of power, at least to some degree, that would mean Rebecca would be attracting more danger to herself. And that would explain why Rebecca seems so afraid of everything. She's attracting the danger to her. Seems like a perfect fit for me. Next, let's talk about Easley. I theorized she's actually an alien from another planet, but for the sake of this video, we'll let that concept slide. Importantly, Easley seems to be aware, at least to some degree, that she used to be a magical girl. She also seems to be able to read the minds of other magical girls and witches, and is racked with their memories of torment. Masara's emotionless demeanor made me think she could view the world as something alien, but again, there wasn't much else to work with. Renka's gamer thing made me think the alien could be a video game reference for her, but once again, that was a bust upon further inspection. Then finally, I saw Sierra. Sierra's ability is manipulating the world around her to match her vision for a movie. It might be a stretch, but Easley's memories around her are designed like film reels. Sierra's ability can also manipulate time, weather, and anything in the world. Maybe that's what's giving Easley an alien-like appearance. Next, let's tackle Stacy. The rooftop witch seems to be a big daydreamer, and was often lost in thought. Importantly, it's been stated that the large brooch on her isn't a representation of what she looked like, so I theorized Stacy must have been big into collecting things. Her color palette and style reminded me a lot of Suleika, but she's lacking any of that daydreamer personality. Konami's a bit of an airhead, but she's too closely related to her themes of flowers that's missing from Stacy's design. No, I'm pretty sure our girl is going to be Amy. Amy is head over heels over a boy she has a big old crush on, and she carries around this little journal with her where she can write all about her crush. And there's been plenty of times where she was so wrapped up in daydreaming about her crush that she spaces out even in the middle of conversations. Amy's airheaded attitude seems like a perfect fit for Stacy's flighty demeanor. Stacy's profile even says she spends all her time thinking about the things that'll never come to pass. What if, after becoming a witch, Amy is still busy daydreaming about the boy, but also deep down knows it'll never happen because of her new form? And her familiars carry around keys, and they get mad if anyone intrudes their well-secured labyrinth. Lots of little diaries, like the one Amy carries around with her, often feature little locks on them that's usually rather pointless. I think this is a near-perfect fit for Stacy. Let's take a look at Suleika next. Suleika's labyrinth is at a jungle gym, and based on her abstract design, I assumed she was probably in therapy. She reminds me of an ink blot, so I think she was probably very troubled and searched for professional help. What could have been troubling her so much wasn't really explained, but I theorized she probably tried to tell her parents about being a magical girl, but they didn't believe her. The spiked design reminded me of Sierra's hoodie, but she's far too upbeat to fit Suleika's personality. Amy seemed like one who might let her magical girl abilities slip to her parents, but she seems like too much of a strong fit for Stacy. And Yuma seemed like she might need some therapy thanks to her home life, and the playground motif would fit her age. However, she was a far better fit for Albertine. And honestly, I think she would have become a witch long before ever actually getting enrolled in any sort of therapy. Finally, I found Mayuri. We don't have much on her just yet. However, her roller skating theme immediately made me think that this playground might actually be a skate park. It's not much to work with, but it's the best fit I could find. Next, let's look at Shin. Shin's design is tied directly to her old life babysitting. Her design is reminiscent of a pacifier, but we also know she is constantly searching for a baby she lost somewhere. This was presumably what caused her grief seed to hatch in the first place. But we also know she didn't like her babysitting job. She only did it for money, meaning she was probably poor, and whatever wish she made to become a magical girl wasn't about monetary gain. Tamari's elaborate design in her cape reminded me of Shin's shawl, but there's nothing about her character that hints to her being impoverished or having anything to do with babysitting. The babysitting element made me think of Hazuki's relationship with her sisters, but she's far too loving and kind to actually lose a baby, and she also got a doppel recently anyways. Now for Shin, I finally landed on Maria. She works part-time at a daycare, and while the children know her to be kind and motherly, her friends outside of work know her to be rather mischievous. Working at a daycare would be right up the alley for Shin. On top of that, the wish she made was to save a child who was hit by a car. That would mean she couldn't make a wish about gaining money. Daycare worker and babysitter are a little different, but honestly, I can't think of a better fit for Shin. And finally, our last witch, Teresa. I wanted to save Teresa for last because she's the one I found the most interesting while researching. She was initially the pendulum clock witch, but she lost track of time and threw away the numbers on her clock face. Now, she's the pendulum witch. This shows that the witches themselves don't always stay the same. Over time, they can change and evolve. Meaning, after all the work I did for this video, all of my guesses might be wrong, because the witches we know of might have been something completely different beforehand. That is so cool and interesting to me. Now, looking more at what I gathered on Teresa from last time, she seems to have had an artistic side, featuring a broken glass from a painting and having paintings in her background. I also theorized she probably had some sort of ability that would affect time, matching both her clock theme and her pendulum theme. I had a lot of different theories for Teresa's magical girl. First, I thought it might be Rika. The harsh lipstick on Teresa's face reminded me of her compact mirror, and her ability to change a target's attention to something different felt reminiscent of Teresa's pendulum theming. But Rika's personality didn't fit right. Next, Kaneko's artistic nature made me think if there's anything I could allude to Teresa's paintings, but Kaneko's art is specifically about designing clothes. Next, Maria's back and forth between her daycare job and her magical girl life also reminded me of the swinging of a pendulum, but there's nothing with her character that alludes to the time element of Teresa, or the painting element. Ria's duality of wishing to be made beautiful made me wonder if she could fit the clock face theming, swinging back and forth between natural beauty and the forced beauty of her wish. Also, as she aged, her beauty would start to go, and maybe that would be the reason why she abandoned her clock face. However, the painting aesthetic isn't anywhere to be found, and the parallels I came up with were based on more headcanon than anything else. No, for our last witch, the only girl I can think that can fit the bill is Rio. I've been theorizing the picture frames Teresa features are that of paintings, But what if it was for photography? Rio's character is strongly tied to her love of photography. Her wish was even to always be able to get the perfect shot. Well, what about that pendulum theme? Rio is a gossip for a school newspaper, and likes to publish juicy stories regardless of if it's good or bad for others. This aspect of her character would have her swinging back and forth in and out of others' good graces, just like a pendulum. She's also one of the white feathers in the wings of Magius. Maybe she regretted her actions, and not wanting to be stuck in that time of her life, she would abandon the numbers on her clock face. There's really nothing about Rio's character that I can think of that isn't a perfect fit for Teresa. And that was all of them. All 20 of the witches I've covered with unknown magical girls. Yay! There's been a few new witches introduced since I've done my last videos, and there's also witches in the books and stuff, but that'll be something I'll have to look into in the future. This was a ton of fun, and I always love coming back to Madoka Magica and its lore. But you know, I mentioned something at the beginning of this video, that the girls' doppels are reminiscent of their witch forms. They even get the same names as their witches. And a lot of the girls in Magia record have doppels. So I got to thinking, what if we take a second to look deeper at these doppels and the witches that we do know of for the magical girls? What more can we glean from looking deeper into these designs and the details of these witches and doppels? Well, I guess that's something I'm gonna have to look back into. After all, I do have a promise to keep. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Shout out to my $10 patrons. You're all amazing. Nako, Michael, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, G Extreme, Classic Critic, Surge, Boulder Off Bros, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Great Bar, Caleb Grimm, Pentamenta, Genital War Thunder, Carmen, Order, Vortex, Jake, Sarah's Van, Mookie, and Amber. I finally did it, part 3. This was so much fun. I could be completely wrong on some of these things. I wrote the script, and then I waited a couple months, and a bunch of these girls got, like, doppels, and it was hard going back and being like, are you actually still, like, eligible? And that was tough. What do you think? Do you disagree with everything I said? Leave your comments and theories in the comments below. I love seeing them, literally all of them. I read all the comments and I love them all so much. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see ya in the next one. And I promise this one will come out sooner. I won't wait another 1.5 years. At least I'll do my best. I'll try. Bye bye.